Hey everybody, I'm here with State Rep Lynn DeCoite. She is running for re-election this year for District 13, which is Hana, Haiku, Paia, Lanai, and Molokai. We're going to walk story. Thanks for joining us today, Lynn.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Could you tell us a little bit about your background? What are your ties to Maui County, and why are you involved in politics?
Molokai girl, farmer, homestead farmer, rancher on homestead land. I love it. My ties to it is basically to educate my colleagues at the state legislature about why we don't have much more attention on agriculture, and our budget that stands there still stands at about 1%. While we're trying to import the bulk of our food, we should be growing it here. So my ties behind it has always been, if we educate people properly about what we do in our own lives and the values that we share, so that we can start to grow food instead of importing our food. But everybody needs to play a part in that, and I'm trying to bring that type of vision as well as transparency to government, and not have these so-called backdoor corporation, as they would say, backing all this stuff, which is why I farm. I supply the entire state of Hawaii with Molokai purple sweet potatoes, and it's a family-owned business.
So what is some of the legislation or projects that you've been working on to support the farmers in your district?
So one of the major projects that we've been working on, because the federal has but they put down regulations on the Food Safety Modernization Act. It's actually been a more hindrance of costs. It's cost them in the thousands of dollars for certification that the feds are requiring. But to me, as farmers are already struggling with that, they're going to be paying more, and yet if they get sued, they still have insurance, which is why many of the farmers are saying we can't afford to do this. More rules, more regulations, and it's not helping. So we passed the food safety. We provided a subsidy the first year with existing funding that stood at the county for some 30-40 years. Turned that into a reimbursement program for $5,000 once you meet food safety certification, because you have to upgrade your farms, you have to do traceback. It's like adding in a whole new position to track where your product goes and where does the contamination come. And though the contamination might come from just the transportation, take Molokai for example. You follow the food safety rules, Young Brothers is not food safety compliant. So if contamination occurs, Young Brothers doesn't get sued. We just would know where the contamination is at, but the farmer still bears the burden, which is why we all carry insurance. Why do we need that? Knowing as a farmer, it's not in our best interest to try and poison our customers. And what you have to factor in also is that when you go to Costco, or you go to Safeway or Whole Foods, you're touching product. That in itself is a #1 contamination. Is you start to touch stuff, put your hands in your pocket, rub your face. You don't know where your hands has been, which is why you see all the sanitation, wash your hands. So that was a huge legislation that allowed us to almost like get $5,000 reimbursement to help offset costs and price. We've worked on legislation with Hawaiian Homes to make sure that Native Hawaiians, when they call into Hawaiian Homes, we're trying to make sure they put positions in place and then supply the budget at what was requested at that time, $28 million. Biggest appropriation ever to Hawaiian Homes, acknowledging that the state needs to understand that they are under a state agency and that we need to fund them according to law, but judiciary cannot name the cost of it. It needs to be done by a legislator to request the funding. So I was proud that we got it actually injected into the budget at $23-something million, which I'm grateful as a Native Hawaiian, because when we call down there, we don't have anybody to talk to. We're trying to address the list. We got to get those people on their lands, off of the list, so that people can learn to better themselves, and that's what was meant under Kuhio's vision for Native Hawaiians. Also introduced some legislation, and I'm grateful because a lot of my colleagues in the Maui delegation has been really, really supportive. Blood quantum was another issue, was to lower the successorship for blood quantum, and I say that again because people believe the lowering of it means you can go on the list and lower that, come on under lower blood quantum. The original vision behind Prince Kuhio was basically to introduce it at 1/32 blood. So what you're having there is a twofold. You have people trying to get on the list at that level. It's not the case. You got to come on the list at 50%. You can transfer down to 25%, and as you know, Hawaii is a melting pot.
Yeah.
We marriage, we do, ethnic marriage here, and we've lost the bloodline. So what you're finding is the sale of the HHL lands, and it's not being sold to the person at the top of the list. It's being sold to the person with the most money. So we evade the list. Part of that also has to go back to Congress. So this is where our congressional delegation comes into play. Many have said they don't want to introduce it. I said, then why wouldn't you secure the host culture? Is it the intention to oust our host culture? What is Hawaii without its native Hawaiians? Worked on bills for ocean marine events. All these years, DLNR would not be able to give you a permit to plan a year in advance. This year we passed out legislation on ocean marine events, which would be piahi, big wave riding, the canoe club, canoe, Molokai Hoi. They draw in huge tourism and funding. So I was grateful Gov just signed those bills, and it was huge for us.
All right, Lynn, thanks for joining us. Thanks for talking about some of your legislative accomplishments. Please remember to vote in the primary August 11th and the general election November 6th.
Mahalo. Thank you very much for having me. Aloha.